guys, my name is DJ and welcome to my spoiler review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's right, this is my spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend that you go see the movie before coming back here and listening to what I gotta say. If you're new here, this is how my reviews typically work. Usually I start these reviews by going through everything I love about the movie. However, today I'm going to be flipping it and reversing it because I'm going to be talking about the things I actually don't like about the film first, because really, there's not a whole lot of them. I think it was a really good movie. However, if you just want to hear the positives for a change, then click on my timestamp right here on my titties. So there's essentially just kind of one thing I don't really like about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and even then, it's a nitpick at best. And it all has to do with Adam Warlock, who, for some reason, feels like a weird, forced part of this movie. Outside of the first 15 minutes of the movie, Adam Warlock really doesn't do anything of note, or at least anything that feels like he specifically was needed for that scene, which is really weird if you think about it, considering he was the one who was teased at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Don't get me wrong, he's not like a bad part of the movie or anything, it just feels like he was going to be a really big part of this movie, and ended up feeling almost like a wasted space. Like everything that he did in this movie feels like it could have been done by another character, considering he was just basically a goon for the High Evolutionary. It just feels like he was gonna have a huge role, and then it got really subtracted over the course of the creation of this movie. And so he kind of just felt like this weird hollow shell of a character by the end of the film. It almost feels like he was added in post, which again is weird considering he was the one who was teased at the end of Guardians 2. And especially because the Quill scene at the end of the movie where he kind of swoops in and saves Quill from the deep space death, I actually feel like that moment kind of sucks with Adam Warlock being there, because while watching it, I immediately thought that that was the past alternate version of Gamora. Which, I mean, if you remember this scene in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie where Quill almost sacrifices himself to save Gamora, if the past Gamora did that for Quill, I think that would have been pretty cool. It also would have, solved the weird Gamora, what is her future like problem. Like a nice little, neat little bow to cap off that story. But honestly, that's everything I didn't like about the movie, because shockingly, James Gunn can make really good Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and this one, as his piece de resistance, his finale, shall you say, of the Guardians of the Galaxy as a group, and his personal finale in the MCU before jumping over to DC, he just really pulled everything out of the bag for this film. But before I get to the main storyline stuff I want to talk about, I just want to point out that the action in this movie is really good. Like that one fight scene near the end of the movie where all the Guardians are teaming up in this little hallway, and for like a minute and a half straight, they are just completely tearing all of these guys apart, and it's all with one shot. There's no cuts. It's just, that kind of stuff really just gets me going. I love that stuff. And it weirdly reminds me of a lot of the stuff in the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn also directed. James Gunn is really good at making these movies, what can I say? From the action, from the directing, from the storytelling, and that storytelling aspect that James Gunn brings to Guardians 3, that is what makes this film so amazing. Like I said, it's a finale film, which we don't really get a lot of those kind of films in the MCU where characters get to just end. Not with a death, but with their stories concluding in a natural way. And in Guardians 3, everybody got the ending they deserved, and the ending that their characters needed. Star-Lord finally returned to Earth and confronted his grandfather. Drax, after suffering this horrible loss from Thanos, where his family died in front of him, has finally gotten over their deaths and can be this father figure again. Nebula actually finding her own version of a family, which is a very foreign concept to her. Oh, and not to mention the fact that Groot also got his big payoff of saying a fucking sentence. But then we get to the story of Rocket Raccoon. Now, originally this movie was just going to be a Rocket Raccoon movie, and you can tell because he was the main character of the film. But the story he went through, the weird origin story that we get to see, his first real family dying in front of, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, but it's weirdly a beautiful story that he tells. And I think for a lot of people, this movie made Rocket Raccoon their favorite Guardian, myself included. Which, by the way, it used to be Star-Lord, but now it's definitely Rocket. And I think for that emotional response alone, where I was sitting in a theater and I could see everybody gasping, everybody feeling the emotions, the tenseness in the air, I think because that experience happened, this movie is a 9 out of 10. You have one of the best scripts in MCU history, you have some of the most fun and relatable characters in MCU history, and you have a built-in love for these characters that the movie knows you have, and so they play with it, they toy with it. They know, you know, that this is probably the last Guardians movie, and they toy with you because they're sick fucks. They toy with you. I think that this movie shows what the MCU can be if you have all of these people together and they have the time and they can breathe and they can actually show and pour their love into a project rather than feeling like that project is so artificially made, so cookie cutters. And you can tell when that happens. You can hear all of these fans lately talking about this Marvel burnout, and I have a video prepped, probably the video after this one, talking more about this situation with Phase 4 and the disappointment going into it. And I think that this movie is what people wanted from Phase 4. Okay, we had the multiverse stuff, that stuff is cool, but you can't just keep throwing things at an audience and expecting them to just love it. No, there has to be an emotional center to it, and this movie feels like the emotional core of people like James Gunn, of people like Dave Bautista, Chris Pratt. All of these people who worked on this movie felt like they loved it. And this movie proved, to me at least, that DC made the right call in putting him on top. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future. But I'm also a little scared of what the MCU will be without the gun. Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me down below, what did you guys think of Guardians in the Galaxy Volume 3? Do you agree with my rating, or do you think that this is a bit overrated on my part? Let me know down in the comments. Please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But until next time, have a good day. Bye-bye.